Hi, I'm Franki. Welcome to Business on the Rise. This podcast is your playbook to learn everything you need to know to launch, grow, and fund your brand. Hello, and welcome back. Today, I'm talking to two very special women. One is Farah Azizan and Adela Askandar from Studio Bikin. Farah and I have known each other for a long time. She's one of my dearest friend. So there is a slight bias here, but again, purely on a merit basis, because I do believe that they have amazing work. The projects that they do is incredible. And I am one of their biggest cheerleader. And what's great about this episode is that they are each other's cheerleader. And this is the message. To have that bond, to have that friendship, and to have that partnership is so important beyond the business, beyond the products. Ladies. Oh, ladies, good morning. Good morning to you. Ooh.
Morning, Frank.
I have Miss Farah Azizan in the house, Miss Adela Askandar of Studio Bikin. Welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us here, actually.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you both, actually, because we've known each other for a very long time.
Yeah.
And we've known each other, each other's quirks, good bits, and like some
All the smelly bits.
smelly bits in between as well.
That's you and Farah.
Sorry.
The smelly is only us.
Yeah. Adela is a super poised and professional still, consistently. Anyway, again, thank you for being here. First question, very light. Tell us a little bit more about Studio Bikin, how you started, what are your values and what are your ethos, and tell us a little bit more about your design processes and what is the Studio Bikin DNA in terms of style and design. Do you want to start off with?
You go first.
Well, maybe I can start off about how we kind of met.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're a couple of years apart, but we had a common friend who used to intern with Farah at GDP Architects.
Mm-hmm.
And I was already working in KL, and I had to go to the AA for some presentation.
For those of us that don't know AA, it's not like...
no, it's not Alcoholic Anonymous. No,
right.
it's Architectural
Yes.
Association, which
There
is
you
like
go.
quite a well-known architecture school in London.
Mm-hmm.
Self-governed, very interesting kind of model. And I had a few friends who went on to do their second part in AA as well. So this friend of ours said, "Oh, you should, definitely hook up with my friend Farah, who's there." So we kind of met at the AA, and I saw one of her projects. Then came back, worked, and Farah eventually came back to KL and worked for Azizan for 6 years. We kind of like kept in touch, and we found that we had similar kind of outlooks in terms of design. That's like our crossover, I would say. Personality-wise, we're quite different, but we kind of like agree on a lot of issues and design-related sort of
Principles. I think, because when I started working in KL, Adela was running her own practice then, and she invited me to collaborate on a couple of projects whilst I was working with my previous practice. But it was all very open. Actually, and it's through our collaboration that we found that actually we work quite well together because we have different strengths. And together we were able to basically execute and take the project to completion fairly well. So, when the opportunity came, actually, when I was ready to leave and feel like I could start on my own, that's when naturally we kind of came together and decided to form Studio Bikin in 2002 in April.
12 years ago.
Yeah, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
God, yeah.
12 years.
Yeah, so we started very small. We had humble beginnings in my house. I live in a terrace house, corner house in Bangsa, which was under renovation then. So we kind of,
Yikes.
so it's like really literally it was under renovation and we were there and I was living upstairs and we made do with a lot of things. And we worked really hard, actually.
Sure.
Yeah, we did. We really we got the opportunity to do an interiors, right? For a cafe in the neighborhood.
Hit and Misses, was that the first one?
Yeah, that was the first one. Hit and Misses.
I love that restaurant.
Yeah, that was actually
it was so beautiful.
It's still one of our favorite projects.
Is
it
it?
is.
Because I mean, Farah really like threw herself into it. Yeah, and it was just around the corner from the house. So it was like a perfect site. You know, you can just walk to the site.
Yeah.
Yeah. By that time I had my 2 kids already. And I found myself like going crazy working from home. So I needed to separate like home life and work life as well. So I thought, okay, let's do this. And after Hit and Misses, I think our big break was like a big gym fit out. It came out of the blue.
A gym?
Yeah.
From a restaurant to a gym?
Yeah, like for Jatomi Fitness, which was a new brand that was being introduced in Malaysia at the time. Yeah, so that gave us the capital to,
grow.
Yeah, and put out our website and, put a few things together, our portfolio together, etc. So that's kind of, yeah.
That's how we kind of got off. That's the footing we set off from. And then also, I guess, parallel to that, we were also doing house renovations, basically remodeling, alterations and additions. And that became sort of like our starting point into doing architectural work. So the restaurants and the gym were interior fit outs.
Yeah.
And then the house alterations and addition was the other parallel architectural arm that we also started developing at the same time, doing terrace house transformations. And it was something that we enjoyed because at that point we were still a small practice and we were both able to be really creative with our spatial explorations and ideas.
And I guess like crafting the buildings.
Yes.
I think that's why I think Farah called the practice Bikin, because I think she's always had an interest also coming from the kind of educational background she had at the AA. She was in the making studio and, that with Six Suns studio, having that kind of quite hands-on kind of tactile experience in her design, translating her designs into reality. That was something that we were interested in, how to kind of experiment with using, say, concrete or bricks in different ways.
So it's never really about style, because every time when somebody asks us about what style we are, and we kind of cringe a little bit because we don't. Style is like a trend, and trend is something that will always go out of fashion. You know what I mean? And we're not in the fashion line. We're in the building line. We build buildings to last forever, and it's not something that you can take down when you get bored of it. If you ask us to build you a house, this house has got to stay and grow with you. Until you leave. So it's for us, it's always been about, getting the foundations sort of like right, and that starts from you, the client, understanding your needs and what you want or your vision of the space. For instance, if it's a house, and then for us is also looking at the context in which you have
We
your
build.
site, your
Yeah.
build, whether it's located in the city, whether it's in a outside the city, looking at the the geography, the topography, the environmental conditions, and that will inform us on how to shape and organize the spaces for you.
Because at the end of the day, we are problem solvers. Clients will come up to us with a brief, and sometimes it is developing something new from a blank canvas. Sometimes, the client needs us to sort of simplify certain things that they're not aware that needs to be simplified. It's almost like reorganizing their lives to suit what they want, their vision, and what they're all about. And sometimes you need a consultancy to, to clarify that for them and to clarify what would suit them. So actually, a lot of people see our work in terms of the external elements and
the final product.
The final product. And they enjoy the use of materials and all that, but actually that kind of comes last. The planning of it is very important for us. Yeah,
it's critical.
The layout, how you move through the spaces, that is actually the first step that you need to get right before you start looking at the kind of various other aspects
and understanding your needs. And it was really funny because we were visiting one of the old houses that we did I think 5 or 6 years back, belonging to
5 years,
5 years, right? To one of our clients. And because after so long we've been divorced from that house, when we came back, we realized we enjoyed walking through the house because we realized, so basically the client was the matriarch of the family. She was a very strong, independent individual who ran the household, and had 2 kids and her husband. So for her, it was really important that the kitchen became the central focal point.
Yeah.
Like it was essentially where she could have an overall view of what was happening in the house. Like
it's like her command center.
Her command center. Those were her words, actually.
Wow.
This kitchen needs to be my command center.
So that's a great brief then.
Yes.
You really understand what's important. And then with that, then you work around.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and she was a very good client because she was very clear about what she wanted as well. And that was
but that's not always the case, right? Clients are not always clear on what they want. I hear this a lot in the industry. And that can be very, very challenging and time consuming, obviously, right? And financially also probably not
challenging.
Viable. So going back to your values and your ethos, and when you are with a client or a potential client, what are some of the things that you look out for? Do you actually, I understand that when you started, you had to build a portfolio, you had to build a name and a brand. And so you would take projects that come and you're not as fast. But 12 years later, it's a very different process, I'm sure. You don't just take in projects and you don't just take in any clients that come knocking on your door, right? Take me through that process of what it was like before and what it is like now. And also take me through the process of the kind of budgets that you were dealing with at the beginning with these clients and the budget that you're dealing with now, 12 years later.
Oh, it depends whether, looking at F&B or, I guess we've always done a real mixture of projects, like between residential and the more commercial projects like F&B projects. But we're not commercial in the sense that we don't do like sort of 5, 8 restaurants at the same time. We're more selective. Because I think for us, in terms of going back to your question on ethos and what's important for us is a client that is on the same page with us in terms of wanting a good design for something that's a little bit more could be a little bit risky, but something that they're open to ideas. If it's a client who basically just swipes through Pinterest and just tell them, I want an arch like that, and
actually,
that's probably me.
No, I think we've got clients who've come to us and
because it's not contextual.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult for us to work with such clients because they might not understand where we're coming from, because we have to start from the ground up when we design something that's going to be a successful product, at the end of the day. So first base, that's how we kind of like filter through our clients from then until now.
Yeah,
That's,
exactly.
I mean, that has not changed. But I guess the scale of the projects might have changed, and the type. Maybe we're working on bigger canvases now. I think we are ready to try different typologies. I mean, we've always wanted to, design schools and more institutional buildings, galleries, those kind of buildings where, you're dealing with a different kind of demographic. So we started out with residential and a couple of F&B, but now we have more opportunity to explore those kind of typologies, which is great.
And the recent one is the Els Hotel. Everybody is raving about it, how gorgeous and beautiful it is. But obviously, the both of you don't see it like how we see it. Oh my God, it's gorgeous, right? You see it very differently. You look at the details.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're at the point where we can actually appreciate it now.
I think about a year later, we're finally able to kind of go in and say, oh, it's actually quite nice.
Yeah.
But what? Because you didn't think it was nice when you finished it?
No, I think you need some time to divorce yourself from an intense...
To come back to it.
Right? Because it was 6 years of very, very intense, labor-intensive work. And you're deep in that whole sort of like pool of creation and then production and then going on site and having to do that over lockdown. So it was very, very intense. So the minute you've birthed this product, this building, this space, but I think after going through an intense birthing process, you need some time. Unlike children, you cannot divorce yourself for it. But then, and children, ugly as anything, so you'll still say it's beautiful. But, it's like, you need some time to kind of
digest
and also remove yourself from that place so that you can see it in fresh perspective.
And appreciate it.
Because we are very critical, because as architects, right, you're trained to look at the most minute details.
You're trained to have a critical eye.
You're trained to have a critical eye and a critical mind as well. So you're constantly questioning, why is this like this? Because you find that you're constantly having to, not to say justify, but you need to have a reason, a purpose, to do something. I mean, our work revolves around fulfilling some kind of purpose with some kind of reason, and we're guided by that. So that's why we're not artists. We are sort of like artists with a leash, with some kind of boundaries. Boundaries.
There must be rationale behind everything that we do. There's some kind of rationale.
Correct. Yeah. So there lies that kind of tussle that I sometimes personally go through. This kind of like, being a naturally creative and quite wild person, very prone to outbursts and
very, very wild.
And then sometimes, and I operate within a rigorous professional framework, right? So I find myself in a struggle sometimes to kind of almost fit in. But I think going back to Els, you do need sometimes I think it's not just Els because it's just particularly big. It was the biggest, I think, project,
and it's a public
and it's a public
you know.
project,
Mhm.
you know.
But I mean, and it's 6 years of, that's half of our existence basically. But I think also when you first hand over a project, you kind of like have to let it go.
Right.
But because of, the COVID process and whatever, you tend to notice defects. It's not really necessarily our design input that we didn't agree with. It's, sort of like workmanship issues and all that
Yeah.
we would have liked to be better, but but everyone seems to be okay with it. So we're happy that everyone's okay with it. So
Yeah, it's just us. It's just our eyes. You know,
Sure.
we're just
Yeah.
looking out for mistakes all the time.
So talking about mistakes and being so critical with yourselves, women are generally very, very critical. Even before this interview happened, our producer Elena and I were having conversation how I tend to scrutinize every little bit about myself in the work process. And I think it can be healthy, but I also feel that it can be really unhealthy for your mental state, right? Because at some point you need to move on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
You need to make peace with that critical side of you and say, yes, I could have done this better. I could have been better, but then make peace and go, okay, I'm going to make up this bed. I'm going to go into another bed now. Right? How do you then make peace with not just the project handover or else, but in everything else so that you can make peace with yourself and really just move on? Because as you say, architects are conditioned and are taught to be very, very critical thinkers. And I just think like, oh my God, how do you deal with that? Do you have a formula to exercise a certain program to get out of that critical state of mind?
It's always there.
Yeah.
At the back of your mind,
Right.
I mean, even when we're working on, because between us, we kind of like have to oversee a couple of projects at the same time. But she's more of the creative director, but she always bounces ideas off me, and she needs that critical eye from me.
Right.
It's part of our working dynamics.
Yes.
But I think when it comes to certain things like, okay, I mean, certain projects that, we've kind of completed, I think you have to kind of compartmentalize your brain. I mean, I've had to learn to do that, or else it's not possible for me to juggle a lot of things, So, okay, done that. And, you kind of like make a mental note of the most important salient things that you need to resolve and transmit that to the studio, to proceed with that. And then that's it, that's done, move along. And then, next problem to solve. So it's almost like, yes, we have a critical mind, but how do you, can you solve it? If you can solve it, let's just solve it now and then put it aside. Yeah. So
I think I think there's two things. There's a critical mind towards the problems that we encounter in our day-to-day work life, right? And then there's the other critical mind about sometimes, I guess I don't know what you're referring to, like maybe there are times where, because I think, running a practice, and then I think especially bearing so much responsibilities, and there's the business side of it, and then there is the design output side of it. Trying to balance between the two, and then and then there's this whole thing, this critical mind questioning: am I doing enough? Am I doing the right thing? I think sometimes I still ask
Juggle.
myself these questions. You know what I mean?
It's a work in progress.
Yeah, but it is a work in progress.
But I think she beats herself too much about it. So
Yeah.
I need to be there to just tell her, it's fine.
It's okay.
Right.
Let's
It looks
talk to
great.
Right.
Let's move on, please.
That sounds like Gaia and I.
Yeah, you know, because I will be like, I can go into this design wormhole.
Yeah, she can get into like a little cave.
Yeah,
and,
right.
yeah.
And I don't need to see people at all. It's
Right.
fine.
Right.
Don't disturb me.
Right.
You know?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about the roles that you guys play individually in the company and the dynamics. I understand that you're the managing director of the company and you're the creative director. So not to say that you're more creative than Adela. I think you're equally very, very creative, just very different. But tell me a little bit more about your role, because you obviously give creative input, but then you also have to manage the company. Like, I'm assuming the finance, the operational,
Yeah.
the HR, all of that. So how do you deal with that? What's your management style like?
Actually, we have a very small studio, and that was quite conscious. I mean, we did grow to 12, I think, at some point, and we felt that, I think it's a bit too much to handle. It became a bit difficult for us to sort of keep track of what was going out of the office, you know, because we kind of like care. But I think at some point now we have a few quite senior people who've been with us for like 10 years, you know, 8 to 10 years. And they're, I think we're ready to let them sort of, you know, lead certain things, but we're mostly more involved at the beginning of the project, you know, at the kind of conceptual stage.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I sort of like oversee maybe a couple of projects, but because I have to juggle all the operational side, Farah is overseeing like
she
more,
leads the creative.
Yeah, a few more projects, and I think she's quite hands on with one or two as well, at least up to a certain stage before, you know,
Passing it down to one of our
passing to a
designers
senior.
too. But then I think it's also quite important to ensure that the integrity of what we're putting out there is consistent throughout the different stages. So which is why, you know, we still are pretty hands-on at every stage of our project to ensure that it is consistent. And I think because we do care about the product that we put out there, and we do care about how things are put together on site. You know, I think that's the main, because I think it's challenging being in this industry. It's also very fulfilling at the same time. But because it requires 100% commitment to get, I mean, just to get this thing going. If you don't care, then I'd rather not do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because we don't do a lot of speculative work. A lot of our projects
What does that mean, speculative work?
You know, competition entries,
Right.
more conceptual. I mean, we've done a couple, and I think it's been interesting. It's just that it's not something that we've ended up doing because we're just busy with projects that are focused on being built. You know, I mean, most of our projects actually are built projects, and we get commissioned with that intention. So from the outset, you have to sort of consider, you know, its buildability and things like that, sort of the technical side of things as well. Yeah. So so Farah, I think enjoys it secretly.
I mean, it's yeah, secretly.
She doesn't admit it. She does.
Right.
I mean, I wish I had a bit more time to design because that is the
The fun part.
It's
like playing, right?
I mean, it's playing, but it's also real. It's real.
Playing with reason.
With reason, yeah.
Sure.
No, and I also wish that actually at some point, I mean, I really also, because Adela has her own strong design sensibilities, which would be nice if she could actually also have more of an equal play in the design aspect of the practice. Because she also sees things, you know, quite differently from I do, but you can definitely see that we share the same design
Values.
principles, but it's just expressed in a, you know, she has
Different style.
different ways of expressing things.
Sure.
It's just like cooking, you know, the ay tangan.
She has a different ay tangan, tapi same ingredients, you know.
Same recipe, but ay tangan lain.
So I get that. Yes, I resonate with that one.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's like, you know, you could cook the same thing and I could cook the same thing, but it tastes slightly different, you know?
Yes.
Because, you know, it's a different...
But it's still great.
Yeah, but it's still good, you know?
Yeah.
And I think for us also, it's like, you know, just to get this management, this is what we struggle with sometimes in the running of the practice. Because, you know, at the end of the day, right, we're not shying away from the challenges that our profession brings us. Like she said, okay, we secretly enjoy it, you know? Maybe it's not so secret now, you know? And we because we like solving problems. Yeah. Just give us a problem.
Right.
Give us a side.
Challenge. Yeah.
Give us your vision.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's 3 trees and you want to retain 3 trees on site, work around it. I mean, we're happy to do it. Something screws up on site. We're there. We're like, what's the freaking problem? Let's deal with this. Do we have the budget? You know, we're quite nimble on our feet, because I think that's what the other thing that the profession needs you to be, is that you need to be nimble. Like nothing ever goes to plan. You know, shit happens, and how do you deal with that when something hits the fan, right? But it's like, and those are aspects of the project that sometimes, you know, those challenges, I mean, it happens in every project, but I feel like it would be really nice if both of us could be there together 50-50. And then we've got like some management gods up there who's just dealing with the HR and, you know, and the business side of things, is saying like, you've got this amount of money in the bank, go, you know, you're safe, you know. Yeah. But unfortunately, I mean, I think Adela is... I guess she has a better capacity to, because she's also very, very organized.
I know.
Highly organized. Excel is it's what turns her on.
Yeah. It turns me on.
Yeah. Because
I'm not like that.
The spreadsheets. Oh my God. You should see her eyes light up when she sees the spreadsheet. I'm like the opposite. I run in the opposite direction.
It's like me and Gaia.
Everything shrinks, you know? Yeah. But she blooms.
Yes, right.
Give her a sheet. Yeah, exactly. You know. So,
it's something we've been forced to learn over the years. Because one thing they don't teach you in architecture school is how to run a business.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and that's common, like globally. So a lot of architects have a better business acumen than others, you know. I mean, we're trying to juggle that side, the 2 elements, with the kind of creative side, which is always a challenge. And that's also a globally, you know, an issue.
A question that most architects running smaller practices goes through, you know, this whole how to juggle.
Sometimes we have to balance like more commercial kind of projects with the more sort of creative ones. You know.
On that note, how do you balance between the commercial aspects versus the design aspects, and making sure one isn't compromised? Because that's a skill to do both, right?
Yeah.
And as you said, you weren't taught this, because business and creativity is very, very different. That's what I know. Like, I think I'm very creative. I have some business acumen, I think, but I, like Farah, I'm not the most structural person. I'm also quite disorganized. Everything's in my head. And I find it very, very difficult to put structure and to organize these thoughts and these ideas. And that's why I have Gaia. And you have Adela to extract some of that and put it in structure. So how do you balance it out?
Oh gosh, I guess it's like constant assessment
Mm.
of our work. Actually, in our office, it is mandatory for everyone to fill out a timesheet.
Right.
That's actually a key kind of like indicator for
Mhm.
us. Everyone has to fill in like how many hours they spend on each project that they're working on.
Right.
You know, if they're juggling like
Is that
you
a
know,
daily sheet or weekly
it's
sheet
a
or a monthly sheet?
it's a daily, but
Right.
they complete it at the end of the week, you know,
Right.
and they have to submit it at the end of the month.
Mhm.
And every once in a while, we assess the hours that we spend on each project.
Mm.
And sometimes we need to sort of, you know, review whether we're actually, you know, spending too much time on
Yep.
the project and what's going wrong, you
So
know.
we have a profitability
Sure.
loss
Yeah.
graph, so that
Yeah.
every project will, so that we can see
Yeah.
which projects
Where you're at.
where we're at
Yeah.
each, whether we're profiting, whether we're
Yeah.
making a loss, or
Yeah.
whether we're breaking even.
And do you assess that monthly?
Every few months or so.
Okay.
Yeah, because sometimes we're really busy
Yeah.
and you know, it would be ideal to assess it every 2 months
Yep.
or so. But these are the things that I need to drive in
Mm.
order to, you know, it's almost like a health check on
Sure.
each project because we're a consultancy.
Yeah.
And consultancy is basically time is money, our
Sure.
time, our staff's time,
Yeah.
essentially. So that's why this is a quite important tool for us.
Mhm.
But of course, there's other challenges recently, like you know, software costs have gone up and things like that that we need to.
Operations costs have gone up, you know, in
Mm.
terms of our software upgrade, our compute. I mean, because we've been running a practice for like almost 10 years.
Mhm.
So we're at that crunch point where we need to upgrade our
Our
even
And you have to
our
invest.
systems.
You
We
have
have
to
to
we have to
we have to
invest. Yeah.
reinvest. Yeah.
in innovation.
Yeah, so at the point where
Yeah.
we're actually starting to, you know, I guess, you know, you know, I think there's that as well, you know, where you're starting to stabilize post pandemic,
Mhm.
and then you find that okay, you have to then go through another round of reinvestment
Mhm.
to kind of upgrade your
Internal system.
your internal
Yeah.
system so that
Yeah.
it can cope with, you know, the work that's coming in.
The expansion that you guys are facing at the moment
Yeah.
with the very different projects and bigger projects
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Correct. You know.
And also to allow flexibility because, you know, if COVID happens again, you know, we want, you know, I want to be able to work from home or from wherever I am.
Mm.
I would like to keep that flexibility
Yeah.
and to enable that flexibility for the entire office,
Mhm.
Yeah.
you know, because I think, of course, we work better when everyone's in the office, but, you know, sometimes that we're quite flexible with our staff if they want to
Mm.
carry on working
From
at
home.
home.
And we
feel-
proved that
yeah.
we can over COVID, actually. I mean, we ran several jobs over the lockdown. I mean,
I mean, everyone had to.
everyone had to. I mean, like within
Yes.
24 hours, I mean, we all packed up our computers and set it up at home. Everyone had their laptops and their computers set up within 48 hours, and we were up and running again over lockdown.
Mm.
So it's good to know that we can, like, touch wood, hope it doesn't happen, but if it did, at least we are reassured that we can actually operate anywhere.
Sure.
You know.
Tell me a little bit more about what's the best part about Studio Bikin? What's the best part about your job? Like, what excites you? I know for you, it's like the creative stuff and being able to create something that's out of the box, and Farah can just.
I mean, actually, what is nice for me also, besides it's just not just about me, but I think seeing the people that's been with us for since day one, We've got 2 senior staff with us, Jisin and Kochin, who've been with us pretty much from when we first started. To see
Amazing.
them grow and develop their skills.
Yeah.
It's like I don't have any kids, but these are almost like
Your
my
kids.
children,
Yeah. Oh.
So I think, oh my God, I'm actually getting emotional, but I'm really proud of them. I'm really proud of them. Like to see them grow,
Yeah,
and
they've done really well.
yeah,
And,
they've done
and
amazingly
I
well.
like I think they have their own personalities and their own take on their strengths. And I think it's about us staying with them and actually sort of highlighting what their strengths are.
Yeah.
And I think they've gained more confidence over the years, which is really gratifying to see.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's so
And
lovely.
I think at the same time, what is great for me is to see our built projects and how people are happy with it.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah.
Sometimes of course, there's that defects liability period where you're like, oh, so many defects, I can't deal with it, But after that, like once people move in and make it their own, and it doesn't matter. It can be messy with underwear here in this corner and all that. But you're living this. You're living the space
Yeah.
that we created, and you're enjoying it. And that is really like
Gratifying.
it's really amazing to see that happen for residential and also for our more commercial projects when you are part of this journey which enables a successful business to do even better, or a startup to sort of launch itself and make its presence known within the industry, with the interiors that we do. I mean, that's it's nice to see that happen. So I think that's what kind of keeps us going, really.
And to
Yeah.
have to be able to contribute to people's sense of wonder and well-being, I think that's nice, knowing that you are also responsible for shaping the quality of lives of people, and that's like, and also that's why we feel such a huge sense of responsibility over what we do, because we are shaping your environment. We are contributing towards the quality of your life, your well-being. That's a massive responsibility at the end of the day.
Huge.
That's why we are super careful, and that's why we care about what we put out. And I guess, yeah, and when we are successful at that, at least you can sleep well. You wake up, you're like, okay, well, it's well worth it, all that sweat, blood, and tears. Someone's happy at least.
Yeah. Can you share a little bit more about some of the projects that you're mostly proud of? And it doesn't just have to be you, but it's also your people within Studio Bikin. What are you proudest?
You go first.
What
The projects that you're most proud of. Is there a particular project that you're most proud of and go like, oh my God, I did that?
I think Farah's residential project, the most amazing one that she did was the Monterey's house. I think that was like really like a creative playground. And she worked with just 2 of them. She and Jason were working on that project. I mean, Jason was the project architect, but we had a really good builder.
Yeah, a great
It
client.
was a great team, and I think you went to
We just
town
went to
with the details
town. It
because the
was
client
trusted us
and
completely.
yeah.
Literally, he was the dream client. He's like, here's my key. This is my budget. Off you go.
Wow.
And he barely, he didn't interfere at all.
It didn't budge.
He didn't budge at all. So it was really amazing. I think one of the projects that Adela led that I enjoyed was actually the regeneration of Taman Tunku, which was one of my already existing favorite buildings, the Crescent. I mean, we refer to it as the Crescent.
Yes.
And she led
The
job.
Stories.
The Stories, which
The
is now it's
Stories.
called the Stories. But she led it with Kochin, our other senior guy. And I think that was a really successful transformation of an existing residential block into a mix of commercial and still retaining and residential, and it was a massive undertaking. Also because there was there was the residential aspect that needed to be dealt with. You had to reconfigure the existing apartments to make them work and suit new ways of living, and then there's the commercial bit on the ground floor.
Yeah.
That we had to reconfigure. Into various lots and skills, and then there's the existing infrastructure, which is all those crusty old pipes and stuff
Yeah.
that she had to deal with and coordinate. So the amount of coordination required to get this project looking the way it does now and functioning the way it does was tremendous. And also then the landscape. So so I think that was a very successful, I mean, it was a
so
project. Yeah,
beautiful.
and it was a project that we're really proud of as well.
Yeah, I mean, we worked with an old friend of ours for the landscape, which was a really nice, I think, nice collaboration. And it was a good team and great client as well. One of our best developer clients to date, actually, to be honest.
Yeah, and we're very appreciative of that, the trust that's been given to us.
That's so lovely that you can talk about the highlights, because I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, well, I know you're both very, very critical. It's easier to be a critical thinker, and sometimes you forget to have these great pat points for yourselves and say, we did a really good job. And I love the fact that you are both answering for one another and not actually highlighting your individual achievements and what you're proud of, that you're both answering for one another. I think that's really, really special. And I really, really love relationships and partnerships in business. I'm a huge advocate and a cheerleader for partnerships. I think it really, really works. I think it makes business more exciting. It makes it a lot less challenging.
And it's good to have another person to bounce stuff off from, because it's hard to do stuff alone.
Yeah.
I mean, I worked alone for a number of years before we started, and it can get a bit lonely.
I'm sure.
I mean, we're not perfect. I mean, I'm sure I irritate the hell out of her on most days. But
I irritate Gaia. I'm pretty damn sure of that.
Yeah.
But also we're growing a team, and some of our senior guys are also we share ideas and get their opinions as well, which I think is quite nice to have this kind of family of people who kind of think and believe in what we do.
The pool of heads is getting bigger, so it's not just the two of us, which is nice, which is what we want. But it's taken a long time to get here.
Yeah. So what does the future look like for Studio Bikin? The studio of making.
The studio
of making.
Yeah.
What's next? What are some of your wish lists? You said that you wanted to you wanted to work with galleries, and I remember you telling me that you would love to build a mosque at some point. Does that dream and is that wish still?
I think it'd be nice. I think both of us, we've always loved the idea of being able to build something institutional, for public use, because a lot of obviously
a lot of our projects are private.
Right?
Exactly.
Private, yeah. So to be able to do more public buildings, where you expand your user base, is it's always been, I think, on most architects' wish list. Not all, but I mean, for us to be able to do a public building would be amazing.
It's almost like a public service from the both of you.
It's not a service. It's like we feel like we want to, we want to do this.
Why is it important?
I think it's a different experience.
Yeah.
Because we've done a couple of houses, and it's a very individualistic sort of experience. And I think it would be really interesting to really delve into a more kind of what do you consider, what would the public experience, in going through these buildings, more sort of public building, and how can we extrapolate because we don't live in a vacuum. We're in Malaysia. We are very rich culturally, historically. We're so rich. What can we extrapolate from our nature and our culture into this building, which I think it's an opportunity
Yes.
for us to explore that's not really been fully explored yet.
Yes.
I mean, okay, in the past, there's a lot of, reference to forms, like, cultural forms,
Yes.
but spatially and materially, like, how do we explore this? And I think it presents a very interesting challenge for us.
Yeah. I mean, essentially,
Yeah.
it's about us trying to redefine the, not
The
redefine.
landscape.
No, what is innately Malaysian to us, and how do we then express it architecturally, as part of our identity as Malaysians, right? And it's very easy, like Adela said, to just say, okay, just copy the shape of a, Moorish arch, and and then you replicate it in a mosque, like with an onion dome, I mean, that's actually imported from, the Ottoman days. It's not something inherently our own, but we've claimed it as such because that's, visually, that's what we see that's been built in Malaysia, but it's not essentially Malaysian.
Right.
It's, it's Mughal, it's, it's something else.
Yeah.
It's imported. So to be able to do a public building, then you're able to send your message about how you then process all of this information onto a larger audience.
Yeah.
And going back to basic principles,
Yeah.
of the religious beliefs, cultural context that we work with, our climatic context, so it's interesting. There's a lot of things to consider.
And you want to be able to make the public be curious and engage in this dialogue as well. Like, make them ask themselves, what am I about?
Yeah.
What does living in Malaysia mean to me?
Yeah.
What is Malaysia? I mean, and you can do that through, you do that through art, you can do that through architecture. I mean, this is what the arts is for, actually, at the end of the day, is to make people question, right? And we're part of that network, and on a larger context, the work that we do, what we want is for people to question, actually criticize, even have a bloody opinion about the stuff that we do. And so the bigger platform we have, then the more opportunity we get to then share, and raise all of these questions in people. And that's what we want, essentially.
I have so many questions that I would love to ask still, but we really are running out of time.
I think we're out of time. She's done the 10 minutes.
Unfortunately. But there is one last question, and it's a question that I ask all entrepreneurs. And again, it's a topic that I hold very, very dear to me. And there is a message that I want to communicate out there to not just entrepreneurs, but every individual human beings. It's health. Define health for me, your definition of health and wellness. How important is it for the both of you? Not just in your work, but personally as well. Do you invest time, or do you feel that you invest enough time in your health? Maybe we'll start with you, Farah.
I mean, I think health to me is when when your body, mind, and soul is sort of like in good balance, right? Of course, I can start with my physical self, which, I think over the years, I think I've always maintained some level of fitness, because I do know that, doing the kind of work that we do, if I don't maintain a certain level of fitness, I wouldn't be able to cope with it. And I do find that,
Especially with the work that you do.
Yeah, when you need a clear mind to start the day, and exercise for me personally is the best way to get my brain sharp and focused.
Yeah.
But I think there's that, and then but the nutritional aspect of that fitness did not match
Right.
my, I guess, my physical fitness endeavors,
Yeah.
because I've always been a sporty girl.
Yeah.
But it's only of the late I real that I've started adjusting and making nutrition an important component in my life, and being mindful. It takes time. It's also very hard because we're busy. So the only time we have is basically, at least for me, and the weekend.
Mm.
Nowadays I come back from work, I'm a bit tired to work, to be prepping stuff.
Mm.
So it takes a bit of organizing.
So you do food prep on
I
the
do,
weekend,
yeah, I
so
do.
that you can
Yes,
sustain
I
your
can
whole
sustain
week.
my whole week.
Yeah.
Without having to prep too much when I come back from work.
Yeah.
So that's been actually very, very good, and and of course cutting back on certain things.
Mm.
The in excesses.
Yes.
With the drinking and the overeating and all of that. And I find that actually it's helped me to be more focused and clear in my work.
Mm.
Mentally also, it's very hard to not think about work when you come back. So you have to be mindful about, disengaging and doing stuff. So like I wouldn't say I meditate, but I try to have a quiet moment
Mm.
because I can. So I have to make that effort
Mm.
to disconnect from my phone.
Mhm.
Food prep actually is kind of like meditative for me because
Mm.
I'm in, I'm
In a good space.
I'm in a good space. I'm focused on
yourself and
myself,
your
my
health.
ingredients, and just the action. I'm not talking, I don't even listen to music sometimes. I'm just really focused and really aware of what I'm doing, and my mind is empty, and so that's my peace time. And then of course the heart. I think the heart is the other thing where if you feel that, I think for me it's like you just have to be sincere about everything that you do. If it doesn't feel right, then get it out,
Mm.
talk to people. It's I think this is also very important, not to have to hang on and hold on to things that
Mhm.
are unnecessary. And
Mhm.
if you are, you must learn to
Offload.
to yeah, somehow let it go, either
Mm.
by talking to someone, to your friends, or doing things to yourself, to lighten all of that. But I think it's a constant, it's like basically you have to have all of these three things connected and
Mhm.
balanced
Mhm.
together.
Mhm.
That's what general health means for me.
Thank you. For
Not easy to juggle, but working on it.
Yeah.
Mm.
And Adela.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the luxury to juggle so much of the health and be so mindful about like getting that balance right because I also have my kids,
Mm.
and my husband. But actually, I'm very, very lucky in the sense that I have a lot of support.
Mm.
I don't think I could be doing what I'm doing now without, my very quite hands-on supportive husband, Harry.
Who's amazing.
We love Harry.
And also Dewi, actually.
Dewi,
Dewi,
we love Dewi
we
too.
love Dewi too.
Your helper, your
Yeah,
house
Dewi's
helper.
amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, Dewi's been with us, for 16 years.
I am Mbak
And
Dewi.
by Dewi, yeah. I mean, she's like part of the household, and we've, I've kind of developed like a system,
Mhm.
with her. So basically, it's like I'm running two entities, like Studio
Mm.
Bikin in the office, and then at home I'm running a household,
Mhm.
and everyone sort of plays their role. I do certain things, she does certain things, and
You're
you
basically a
know,
manager.
yeah, I have to manage a lot of things. And now with the kids being teenagers, they have their classes, they have
Mhm.
their own commitments that I have to juggle as well.
Adela, you're talking about a lot of other people, but you're not talking about yourself.
Yes, and that is something.
Can you talk a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, that
Yes.
has been a problem in the past, and I was reminded very accurately by this acupuncturist who was really good, because I think like my whole body just seized up at some point. And she asked me all these questions, these leading questions, like, what do you do? What do you work? How many kids, etc. And then she realized that I was just solving a lot of other people's problems, but I was just completely neglecting myself. So that became the kind of
awakening moment,
beginning of her treatment, right? And it was really an eye opener and realization for me. So since then, I actually,
was this recent?
This was about 6 years ago.
Fang, right?
Yeah, Fang. Yeah, she's amazing. But she moved to Sabah.
Allah.
But anyway, yeah. So I made a conscious decision to make time for myself. I got myself a personal trainer, twice a week, to sort out my back as well as my general well-being, and a bit more mindful about getting exercise, like regular exercise and things like that. And it really has helped me focus, help with my my back issues and things like that.
I hope the bar classes at Bungalow 18 has helped as well.
Oh yes, it has tremendously, and I'm so gonna miss the company as well. Yeah, so I mean that kind of camaraderie is very, very helpful and precious to me, because it's something that's completely other than what I have to manage in to and at home, and I can really like let go. So I think that's quite important.
Yes,
to balance your life. Yeah.
Ladies, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Frank,
and for sharing bits and bobs of who you are and what you're like at the work front. It's nice and refreshing to hear this side. But most of all, I am so excited about the future projects for Studio Bikin. I'm so proud to be associated with the both of you. I'm so proud to be your friend. I really am. Like some of the things that you have done, some of the projects that you have done and achieved, because I've heard, the stories, the behind the scenes stories, and the hard work and the challenges and the stress. I just think it's extraordinary what you do, the both of you. Really, really extraordinary. And I really, really hope with time things get better and you get more inspired and you have the opportunity to be far more creative within the limited parameters that you're given here.
Also, and to have a bit more time.
Spread our wings a bit.
Yeah. And also to have a bit more time for ourselves, really. At the end of the day. I think that's what we both want.
Yeah, because I think, we're ready to, open our practice and how we work to the younger generation. And I think, it's something that, of course, you have like, technology and AI nowadays, but, you still need someone mature and experienced to manipulate that and to use that as a tool in an intelligent way, so yeah,
we're hopeful, and thank you for your kind words.
Thank you.
I mean it.
It's really, really nice to hear from you.
I really, really, really mean it. I am so proud of. I have always been very proud of you, and I'm always cheering you guys to other people. Do you know that they're doing this and they're doing that? It's so cool. So thank you, ladies.
Thank you, Franki.
Thank you so much, Franki.
Hope to see you soon.
Yes.
Thanks for tuning in. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep watching. And don't forget to follow us and subscribe.